welcome back for the reveal of the Find the Synthetics Reed Challenge I proposed. In this video, I wanted to first discuss how I went about making that challenge. First things first were the cane reeds that I chose from. I had at least 3 of each reed that I wanted to feature in the video, and I chose the one that best suited me that day. For the synthetics, I only had 1 of each sample and used what I had available. Additionally, I wanted to discuss more of the details of each of those reeds and how they felt from my perspective. So this should be a much more informative video. Without further ado, here is the list in order of the reeds from the Reed Challenge. So let's jump right in. With the Rico Jazz Select 2M reed number 1, I found it to be soft, dull, easy to blow, but maybe a little too soft for my liking. The second reed was the Boston Sax Shop Black Label 2.5. This one was harder than I expected for a 2.5. I think that's due to the thick tips of the Boston Sax Shop reeds. They do have a full dark sound, and I did prefer this reed over any other 2.5 on the list. The third reed was a Forestone Hinoki M. This is actually my go-to synthetic reed when I want something that's easy to swap and leave on the horn. They have a great balanced sound, not overly bright. They do get a little buzzy. They are extremely free-blowing, and that was also featured on the Round Midnight intro from the previous video. The fourth reed is the Alexander New York 3. I actually used to dislike these reeds a lot. I found them much too hard and resistant. But now, it's really got a nice, lush, darker tone, no buzz, very pure sounding. The fifth reed was the D'addario Venn 3.0. This was actually harder than a 3 in the Boston Sax Shop Black Labels, and they are very fatiguing. They do have a great even sound, not synthetic-like at all. They are not extremely free-blowing. They're probably middle of the road for responsiveness. The sixth reed was the Vandoren Red Java 3. This one I actually found to be quite dull. It did have a bit of buzz, and it is extremely responsive, but tonally, it was not for me. The seventh reed is the Nexus Elite 3.0. These used to be my go-to reeds, but now they got a little bit too soft for me. I find them to be extremely responsive, just the right amount of brightness, and I really think that thin tip makes them so easy to play. Number 8 was the Silverstein Works Ambipoly Alta 2+ Jazz reed. This was far and away the hardest reed of the bunch to play. It took much more air and effort to play than any of the other reeds. It does have a good dark tone, especially for a synthetic reed, but it is too much work for me. Number 9 is the Fiberreed Carbon Medium Soft. This is the brightest reed that I have. It also is extremely responsive and easy blowing. It has almost zero resistance, which leads me to overblowing it and the chirps that were present in the recording. Number 10 was the Nexus Elite 3.5. This is my current go-to cane reed. I find them to be the perfect balance of the resistance and strength and the free-blowing nature of the Nexus Elite reeds. It does add a lot more depth to the tone over the softer Nexus reeds. Number 11 was the Forestone Black Bamboo Medium Soft. I found this to be one of the dullest sounds of all the reeds played. It did have a very easy blow, and it was not very resistant. However, it does not take air very well, and the tone leaves something to be desired. Number 12 was the Boston Sax Shop Black Label 3.0 reed. I found these to be harder than my go-to reeds, but they do play extremely well. A nice, pure, dark sound. They are thicker in the tip, which leads to more resistance in playing, but I find that they would be great if you take the time to adapt to them. Number 13 was the Legere American Cut 2.25. These reeds are surprisingly fatiguing for my embouchure. I'm not a fan of the way they feel, but I really do feel like they have a very similar to specific cane reeds, such as the Vandoren Javas, and they really respond similarly as well. Number 14 was the Pilgersdorfer 3. This reed was a very dark sound, but it was kind of buzzy and it gives a really cool vibe. They are more resistant than I like, but they are definitely something I could adapt to. Number 15 was the Vandoren Blue Box 2.5. This one surprised me. It had a great sound, brighter than I expected. It was about middle of the road versus free blowing and resistant. I found it to be a great pushback. Number 16 was the Forestone Hinoki Medium Soft. This one was too soft for me on this mouthpiece, which made for a brighter sound. However, I do think it pairs very well with larger tip opening mouthpieces. It is still extremely free blowing and it has a great natural tone. Number 17 was the Boston Sax Shop Silver Label 3. This one is on its way to becoming my new favorite. It's the perfect middle ground between the Boston Sax Shop Black Label and the Nexus Elite reeds. It's bright, but not overly bright, very pure sounding. It is more responsive and free blowing than the Boston Sax Shop Black Label, but not so much that it gets to overblowing like I can do with the Nexus. Number 18 is the Fiberreed Carbon M. This one felt a bit hard. Its free blowing nature made it easier to play, but it fatigues my embouchure quicker. It also overblows extremely easily, so you need to be careful, otherwise you'll end up with chirps like I did. Number 19 was the Rigotti Gold 2.5S. This one was surprisingly bright for me. It did blow a bit soft for me, which was surprising, but I also found it to be quite resistant, which made it balance out well. Number 20 was the Nexus Elite 2.5. This was the softest reed in this bunch. I found it to be really free blowing, perhaps too much, and I think this reed is better suited to my 10 plus tip opening mouthpieces that better suit my embouchure with this strength. With that said, thank you for sticking around. I really hope that this was informative and that you maybe garnished a new favorite reed for yourself. Since I realized the challenge that I laid forth in the previous video was quite extraordinary, I have planned to make a new alto version of the synthetic reed challenge where I will feature less than 10 reeds and only 2 synthetic reeds to make it simpler, and I will still honor the first person to correctly identify those reeds will get a box of Boston Sax Shop Silver Label reeds on me. Look forward to seeing you there.